Okay, we're gonna start this because Tika Sumpter is 4 minutes late. It's my fault. And I am so happy to be talking to you guys again.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that as many people, I mean, we got a lot of views last time, a lot, over
I know.
30,000 people. We're good, Ariane. Thank you, babe.
Bye.
Bye. um, Over like 30,000 people saw it.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, and
Yeah.
obviously are interested. I even had a conversation about homeschooling with my fiance, and I was just like, you just dropping some of the gems that you told me, and I kept saying like, I can't believe her daughter is so advanced. Like, oh my God. And what hit me, you were like, I don't believe it takes 12 years to learn all that they learn when they get out. So that I'm happy to have Haley here, who is the genius, um, as well as her mom. And I see where she gets it from. I really want to get an insight, I think, from you about, so kids are kind of, not abrupt, but like just kind of afraid and hesitant, right, to kind of go this route because they're afraid of feeling lost or feeling like, I don't know, I'm not used to this route. I'm used to, when you go to school, public school, you go to this class, you go to that class, you take home homework. There's a instruction.
I don't know if our Wi-Fi hurts. So Tika, you froze on us.
Did I freeze?
You did, but now you're unfrozen.
Cool. Okay. Did you hear me?
All I heard, the last thing I heard was instructor.
Oh gosh, that's not good. Okay. So I did this whole rant about you that you didn't hear. What I want to know is like, how did you say, okay, this is what I want to do? Like I think a lot of kids, are interested but hesitant.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the structure in public school is already there. And like, how do you, manage your time? How do you do all the things that a teacher would actually, you would just have a schedule? Like I scurry to class 1, whatever. So for you, how did you get into the homeschool idea?
Yeah, it was really my mom. I was in just public school 5th grade, and I didn't know, like I didn't notice, I didn't care, honestly. I just wanted like friends. I didn't like what school it was and stuff wasn't anything that was really on my priority list. But my mom was like, well, I want you to be challenged and interested in education. So she decided to pull me out and homeschool me. But after that, like I was homeschooled and I really enjoyed it. I would say that there's really nothing to be hesitant about when it comes to structure or scheduling. Partially because if you really like, if your student needs that structure, that is something that's available even when homeschooling. Because I wasn't completely homeschooled where I was just at home all the time. I went to like a hybrid kind of homeschool. So there was still a building with teachers and a schedule and homework and stuff like that. It was just more flexible than public school. Mm-hmm. And then also with the scheduling, it's up to you. So whatever you feel comfortable with. So if you need a daily routine to stay on task, you can make that for yourself and you can make it to the extent you need it. So oh, I'm really good at math. It'll only take me an hour. Whereas maybe a public school math class would be an hour and a half. And then science is only an hour and a half and that's not enough time for you. So you could spend more time on that. So it's more flexible, but that doesn't mean you don't have to have the schedule. If you need one, you can make one. And they also have some like online or with hybrid schools. So it's not something that I was hesitant about.
Right. How do you make like I know your mom said it's really important to get in other groups. Mm-hmm. How did you make friends? Is it because you were in other groups? Like how did that happen? Because I think people are afraid of also. Your mom touched on this, like, oh, my kid needs to be socially around other kids to understand how the world works and whatever that is that, society tells us we need to be socially acclimated with other kids, which is true. But I'm trying to understand from your perspective, because you were going to homeschool. How did that work for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that homeschooling kids can socialize. You can do, for me, one of the biggest ways that I socialized when my mom had me signed up for so many extracurriculars. I did the piano, harp, fencing, speech and debate, a bunch of camps, orchestra. I had a lot of different means. Yeah, a lot of different means of
Dr. Taylor.
I was an overachiever, girl. I was doing too much.
It was fun. It was fun. And then, as you can imagine, I had more exposure to kids my own age than people at school, because you see the same kids every day and they're in your neighborhood. And it's like you're not exposed to a bunch of different groups like I was. And for some people, maybe it works. But for me, I was able to be exposed to a bunch of different groups of still kids my own age. And so I had that method of socialization. And then, like I briefly mentioned earlier, there's hybrid schooling, where you can go to a physical building with teachers and a bunch of other students and like homework. And it's just like a normal school, really, except for you only go like 2 days a week or 3 days a week. But nonetheless, you have students there that are also your own age. So you have that method of socialization too. So it wasn't something that my socialization wasn't negatively impacted by homeschooling.
Okay. What are some of the, so homeschool 101, I'm starting homeschool for the first time. What advice would you give parents and kids who are like, I want to try this? We have nothing to lose at this point right now, because we're all socially, a lot of schools are actually closed, especially where I'm at. How do you jump into it?
I would say that for parents, one of the pieces of advice that I would give, that I hear my dad say too, and I really like it, is to make sure that you don't hold your student back. So for me, when I jumped into homeschooling, it's when it just shot off. I went really fast after that, because I started homeschooling at 11 and I graduated high school at 13. So I did that like 5th grade to 12th grade in the span of 2 years. So if you notice that your student is like being able to do that, like picking up pace, don't slow them down. You know, like it's a difference between like guiding them, like, oh, you should do this class, you should do this class, but being like, no, you're 13, you're not supposed to be graduating yet, you should be back here. It's something that's not going to be beneficial. You're homeschooling them to allow them to be where they need to be. And then for students, I would say, don't be afraid to be where you need to be. So for me, if I was like, well, I don't know, I'm only 12, I don't know if I can do this hard math, like challenge yourself. And then don't be afraid to be like, oh, I'm not ready to move on yet. Like the point of homeschooling was so that you can be where you need to be. You don't have to feel like you're falling behind anybody or going too fast for anybody. You're exactly where you need to be. You can't be behind yourself. Like you can't be held back from yourself. So if you know you need to do algebra a little longer again, that's nothing to be like ashamed of or embarrassed of.
Well, I think you hit on a good point, like feeling like, wait a second, there's no way you know all this stuff at 12. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think as a parent, you're scared, like you don't know all of it. Like you really don't know it. Yeah. And how did you, Dr. Taylor, did you see a big change when she stopped public school to go to homeschool, and like how quickly she was kind of going through it? And actually, you know, I don't remember a lot from high school. Did you actually retain a lot more, do you feel? So I think, did you see the jump happen? Mm-hmm. No, Dr. Taylor, did you see like the transition of like her kind of going through stuff quicker? And then for you, Haley, were you retaining information? Because I think a lot of the times we're just remembering for the test and then it's just gone. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so I'm interested.
Yeah, you know, with my plan for Haley, like I say all the time, was not for her to, I had a whole plan. It was very elaborate, SAT subject tests, AP exams, CLEP, like this whole plan to get her to Harvard, or at least Harvard ready, just in case she didn't make it to Harvard, she could always go to Yale or Stanford.
You had a whole plan.
Or MIT or some other school. I wanted to preserve that option. Not that I really wanted her to go to Harvard, but that was just kind of like the beacon or gold standard.
Yeah.
And Haley just wasn't having it. Like she was 12, 11.
She's like, I'm not having it, Mom.
She just was not having it. She was not seeing my vision. And so I thought that it was because she lacked maturity and she lacked foresight. Like, well, you know, I'm going to extend middle school actually and add another year onto her schooling because she's not where I think that she should be in thinking the way I think about her life.
Wow.
And so I was going to extend middle school, and then we took her to a psychologist to have her evaluated for learning differences or giftedness, or just how does she learn, and how, you know, and middle school is kind of a little bit of a difficult time sometimes with young ladies because they're transitioning into this kind of pre-adulthood. And so I thought, well, maybe she's just rejecting or rebelling, or I don't really know what's going on. Basically, let me get a professional. So I highly recommend getting a professional if you need one. And the professional did an evaluation and said, you know, Haley, she's very smart, she's very bright, she's very motivated. And basically, Haley told me that she wants to get done with all of the school, like the rules and the regulations, and you will learn this and you will learn that. And she just kind of wants to get into the world and do the work that she was sent here to do. So you need to get out of her way, Mom, and let her express herself and let her be your guide. So I went from like thinking about extending middle school to actually graduating her early from high school so she can go ahead and start college. And so when I started listening to her, basically I came up with a plan with her, like, okay, so listen, I won't, no SAT subject test, no AP test. What we'll do, this is a new plan. I scrapped everything off the wall. I had a girl, it was elaborate. It was
I'm tired listening to, I'm like, wait, what? Sounded like a lot, Haley. Sounded like a lot.
She's the one who guided me. And because I listened and I incorporated her thoughts into the plan, which was basically, I just want to go. Like, I don't know why you keep stopping me. Then she was all on board. So I went from having this daughter who kind of didn't want to listen to me to somebody who I think that she really values my input and advice because I valued hers. And I think that that's understated sometimes.
Wow. Well, you listen, like, I think that's I mean, I don't know about like your mother, but like, it was, or, growing up, it's like being seen. You always hear like you're seen and not heard. And I think now we're giving them the opportunity to actually talk. And they're like, no, this is actually what I think. You know, it just doesn't jive with what you think. Right. It doesn't mean that I'm nuts. You know what I mean? So exactly. I love that. Yeah, I love that idea that you actually have a real conversation and listening and letting your child kind of lead the way. So Haley, for you, retaining information, were you retaining or were you running through it?
No, it was retaining because I was exactly where I needed to be. So when I needed to be doing algebra, I was. When I needed to be doing geometry, I was. So it kept me engaged and interested, which kept me retaining the information rather than just memorizing it for an exam and then forgetting it. It was like, I'm interested because this is just the right amount of challenging. Not too challenging where I get frustrated and like don't want to do it anymore, but not too boring where it's like, okay. So it was the perfect middle. So it kept me engaged the entire time because I was able to be exactly where I needed to be. And that's one of the best things about homeschooling, in my opinion.
Wow. Can I ask you, like, I know that it was your mom's idea, but like, what is the difference that you felt once you started homeschool? Like, what is the real difference from public school to like I know that like you get to figure out where you want to be and how fast you want to go and all that, but like, what did it feel like? Did it feel awkward and weird that like you didn't have this structure of like a need to do? Well, you kind of do have a structure because you have like but it's a different kind of structure. So yeah. What did that feel like? Like literally like first day you're like, okay, I'm at homeschool. What was that for Haley?
That was sleeping in late for Haley and not waking up until 10 o'clock.
That was the huge part of it. Yeah, I got to sleep in and wake up and I was like, oh, this is nice. Oh! That part, I did love that. And then I guess like the academic half of it, it wasn't uncomfortable at all. I was actually really excited because I was able to, the first year I had joined homeschooling, it was obviously like kind of just what is this and what's happening and just getting used to, this is our first time any of us in the entire family had done this homeschooling idea. So it was like, okay, let's find the school, let's find the tutors and just like an adjustment kind of. But for me, it was just, I was in one school and now I'm in another school. Like it wasn't really something that as a fifth grader, I was thinking like, oh, wow, this is like my friends or whatever. I don't know. I didn't have any criticism toward it. I was just like, okay, well, different school, I guess. Like I was still learning and I still took it as like, okay, this is like something I have to do. But after being there for a year and I was able to see there was one boy in particular who was able to like excel, like he was going fast. I was like, I want to do that. I want to go fast too. And so it kind of became like a competition, not a mean competition, but like a competition between him and I. And we would talk to each other and he'd be like, yeah, I did this. And I'd be like, well, I did this. And it was like, that was for me something I never got in public school because everybody like, you did what? I'm sitting next to you in class. You didn't do anything. I'm there too. Like there's no competition. Like the only competition is who got a better grade, but we're in the exact same class with the exact same teacher. We have lunch at the exact same time. But with the homeschooling, he took classes that were different from me, even though we were in the exact same age group. And typically in public school, if you're the same age, you're in the same classes. So, I mean, I guess in high school it could be a little more flexible, but for homeschool, it's extremely flexible. So he was like 12 and he was in classes totally different from mine. And I was like, wait a second, how'd you? And so it was really exhilarating for me to be like, I can do that too. And so I got to be exactly where I wanted to be. So it was a really exciting and fun adjustment for me.
And it was hard too, because she came home one day and she's like, Mommy, I want to take the ACT. And I'm like, but you're 11. Like, who takes the ACT at 11 years old?
I'm still baffled right now, to be honest.
I mean, like, and I like literally was like, no, that's a waste of money. I'm not gonna pay, sign you up, try to find a place for you to take the ACT. And she kept bothering me about it. Like, she really wanted to take the ACT because what's his name? What was his name? Israel. Yeah, I was taking the ACT. So I bought her an ACT book, and I said, okay, well, read it. And when you feel like you're ready, we'll take a practice test, right? And she did that, and she scored pretty well on the practice test. And I thought that she cheated.
You were like,
no.
I did not cheat.
So I did let her take the ACT, and she scored well. And then I realized after the fact that that was for the talent search that this boy was taking the ACT for. And I didn't know anything about talent searches. And I didn't know that homeschoolers could do talent search. So
what is talent searchers?
Exactly.
What is that?
So it's like when kids, 7th graders, take an above level exam so they can get into a program that allows for summer camps and online opportunities. And basically it's like a smart kid merit badge that opens up some doors of opportunity and learning, enrichment. I didn't know about that. Like, I didn't know about that. And so, and I don't know that she did, but she wanted to take the ACT. So I got in my mom's groups, like, my 11-year-old wants to take the ACT, homeschool, how do we do that? And so obviously I mentioned last time, your kid can take the ACT or SAT anywhere. You just pick the school, like, you know, like you would at any other student would pick a school. So we did that. And when she scored, she qualified for the talent searches. And this is something that was completely not on my radar. Like, she brought this to me from the homeschool group, telling me I want to take this standardized above level exam because this other kid was doing it. And so, I mean, I just think that that's like, to her, your example, that's one fantastic example of how this can work.
Listening.
Yes.
And then I'll jump to some questions, but I'm interested, like, how are you keeping up at 16 in your second year of law school? Because that means you were in college at what age?
Yeah, I was in college from the ages of 13 to 16. I graduated last May. And so I did it in 3 years because I wanted to. And so
because you're kind of in that, like, I could go get ahead. I can go ahead because I'm used to being where I need to be.
Exactly. Wow. So but for being a second year law student, the first year, you hear all these horror stories as a first year law student about, like, oh, you know, it's very competitive. I heard the story, like, the fellow students will rip pages out of your book to make you, since it's graded on a curve, some people have to get A's and some people have to get C's and most people get B's. So for, like, the idea behind this, for every student that gets an A, a student is going to get a C. Even if they would have got a B or an A, you're getting a C because it has to balance somehow. And so that's, like, I don't know if that's actually how it works. It didn't really seem like it, but it is a curve nonetheless. And so they were making it seem really intense. So students would rip pages out the book, so you're going to get, like, a worse grade and, you know, destroy your note. But it wasn't anything like that. I can attest to, it's like a whole new language. You're learning, like, you understand the individual words, but put together, it doesn't seem to make any sense. But it's more frustrating, in my opinion, than learning a different language because it is English. So you're, like, sitting there like, I know what this word means. But in the sentence, this doesn't make sense. I don't know what you're trying to communicate. And so it takes practice, but you have a whole year with the practice. So by the time you're entering your 2L year and you get to choose your classes and stuff, for me at least, I'm pretty comfortable going into my second year because I think I already have developed study habits, not only in law school, but throughout because by the time you get to graduate school, you know how you study, how you learn, things like that. And so I already have my habits and my systems. And then I've already done first year, which is the hardest year, especially since it's new and a transition. So second year, I'm looking forward to. It starts in like 10 days. So I'm looking forward to it.
And do people, like, just on a social level, do people look at you and they're like, how old are you?
They didn't. Everybody in my law school knows how old I am. And I didn't know that because nobody brought it up. So in undergrad, nobody knew how old I was. I guess I looked older than I was, because I was like 13, 14, 15, and 16. So I don't know why it wasn't something they were questioning, but they didn't question it. And so when I told them, they were like, wait a second, what? But in law school, they knew. They're like, wait, you're the young one, right? And so when they would come and talk to me, they didn't start off like that, but eventually they'd be like, I'm talking to the person I think I'm talking to, right? You're the younger one. And so they all knew. And I didn't know that because I was used to nobody knowing. So they all knew that I was young. And I was like, yeah, that's me.
That's me.
That is me. Yeah. I'm the younger one.
That's amazing.
I feel like they're taking pretty good care of her, though.
They are.
She has a little group of friends, and they, even if they drink, I mean, she'll be 18 in a week or two, 10 days or whatever, and they are just so like, oh, we're not going to drink because Haley's here, or like they play games and they modify.
They do.
They're respectful.
Yeah, so it's really, and they invite her and encourage her and almost low-key like bully her. Like, you need to come and socialize with us, and so that you can really get the full experience of law school. So I feel like your little friend group, they're
great.
They're taking care of you.
Yeah.
I love it. Let me go get these questions because they're on my phone. So I'm going to stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so I have some, okay, so from Rakim B7, how do you keep your headphones in? Okay. How do we create curriculum, and do you recommend any templates over others? And do you have a recommended list of products, course content to learn from, such as Khan Academy for math, or Reading Language Arts, Woke Academy for history, to science, and so on? So first, how do you create the curriculum, or do you recommend any templates over others? That's the first question.
It's pretty awesome because in our Facebook group, Brilliant in Color, actually Haley, I had her go through all the curriculum that we've used over the years and put it into a spreadsheet. And the reason why I think that that's useful is because not all of the curriculum is good for students of color. They're not all affirming. And sometimes if they get to be too religious, they will leave out important parts of science, reproduction, evolution. And so if your child is interested in anything STEM related or medicine, then they'll be at a competitive disadvantage utilizing some of this curriculum. So I made it a point to go through and make sure the curriculum at least seemed like they cared about diversity to some degree. And I didn't want it to be I wanted it to be more secular than religious. So we created that, I made her do it, because she's still a kid right now, so she's still listening to me.
Wait, so do you go online and like where, like if somebody is looking for it and you're looking for these templates, like you said, she did it. So where do you go to find them?
We put it in our Facebook group called Brilliant in Color.
Brilliant in Color.
Brilliant in Color.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's where it's located now. But that's what I've done. So over the years, basically in the mom groups or whatever, starting with what I wanted my child to learn and how I wanted them to learn it based on what they told me they wanted to do. Then I found things like Haley. Initially, she thought she wanted to be a doctor. And it was interesting because I would talk to her excitedly about my doctor stuff and about cell bodies and neurons. And she's like, I don't care about the cell body of a neuron. I said, then you can't be a doctor. I mean, like, you don't care about the cell body of a neuron? Like, this is not doctor material. I can't, right? So,
you almost fainted.
I know, I'm like, we are not seeing eye to eye here. So I said, you know what? I don't think this is good for you. And the way she argued, I said, lawyer. I think that lawyer might be good for you. So let's explore speech and debate. So I found a curriculum. So Duke Tip here in Texas, that's the talent search. I signed her up for a mock trial to see how she liked it. And if she didn't like it or she hated it, that opened up the door for more conversation. But she liked all of this stuff because mommy pays attention.
You're listening.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Do you have a recommended list of course content to learn from? Like, is Khan Academy good? Is Woke Academy for history? Like all those things, like, are those kind of resources?
They are really good. The only thing is it may not be good for your child. So my kids didn't really love Khan Academy. I think that Sal Khan's voice was just kind of maybe a little monotone, and because they weren't really into it, and it seemed long and it was just all black, with writing, they just kind of didn't really. But then there's like, yeah, but then there's others that use more animation, or maybe it's a book where they have to highlight it. So I use a lot of different things. So one of the things I really like is the art of problem solving, which is like this advanced math. And then I like the Well-Trained Mind and all of their stuff for language arts. And now they even have math and science on their online academy. So I'm excited about that. So those are the two places I would start, because we've had really great success. My kids, they come up to me and they know stuff that I don't know because I don't remember, or I didn't find it important enough to remember, never learned it. And so the reason why I mention that is because when we homeschool, of course, your kids you want your kids to learn things that you don't know, because you're you and they're them, and they're going to do a whole different thing in this world than you. So signing your kids up for these courses, like Haley learned how to diagram sentences, right? I never even heard of that. Like, I mean, I was unified. We didn't do that. So she learned something because somebody else taught her how to do it. And they teach them how to do it like in Well-Trained Mind. So I highly recommend exploring
that out too.
Curricula.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. How do you stay organized? Like, how should we save their work for their portfolio?
So that is important, because if you ever want to put them back, you want to try to have some information and data to advocate for their right level. And chances are they're not going to be able to be as advanced in public school, because public school doesn't do that. So they'll probably have to get in where they fit in terms of their age, or you could try a private school. But yeah, I use blogs and lots of spreadsheets. I printed things out and put it in ring binders, because I was always afraid that I would be interrogated and audited. And I wanted to show that no, my kids know stuff. And what I didn't want is, I didn't want them to pull up like CPS to come and pull them out on the front porch and then quiz them on US history. And then when they don't know the answer, like
I'm sure CPS doesn't know the answers anyway. So. I'm sure you guys probably know way more. No offense to CPS, but I'm just saying. Okay, so ring binders, blogs, just keeping it all kind of organized that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to keep you any longer, but Haley, what do you want to do when you get older, girl? When you 2 years older than you are now, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, I have big goals. I would say the two biggest goals I have right now is, the first thing I want to try and achieve is being governor of Texas. So that's something that, it'll navigate after time, and then eventually president. So, those are.
Girl. I believe it. I believe you. So don't forget the little people. When you are governor and then you're the president of the United States of America, because I believe you truly can do anything. And I think what you guys are doing here is inspiring people to think differently. Because not so long ago, people, including myself, homeschooling was like a very foreign, like, oh, that's for them. And I never saw really Black people doing it at all. So I think it's inspiring and it's encouraging, because to see your children excelling the way you did, the way they are, it's like amazing. And, next week I'd love to get Dad in here to kind of, it's like a family participation. Like, it's like everybody's hands are on deck, right? Yeah. And so I'd love to figure out, like, how do we make this a family mission, and so we can talk more through that more. I promise you I'll be earlier, and I promise you I will connect everything correctly. But we made it happen.
Tika. And then Tika, so did you get my book?
First of all, I got your t-shirt. I'm ordering your book.
Okay.
Yes, because
you mentioned about Black moms and Black families not homeschooling, or there's not a lot of information out there. And that's absolutely right. And that's why we wrote this book. So you have to get the book, read the book.
No, you have to read the book. And I literally I went to Amazon first, but I'm like, no, I have to go to because I order Amazon's fast. So I'm like, quick.
But Amazon's fine.
I looked, I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm gonna look again, because I literally put in the Homeschool Alternative. It's on our site at sugaberry.com. And it actually, a lot of people have been going to sugaberry.com looking at that article actually. So I will go on Amazon today to check again. I didn't see it, But I'm excited to read it for my own sake because I started having these conversations. My daughter's only 3.5 right now, but I find it very intriguing what you're doing and what many parents are doing, especially Black parents, because you don't really see it, you know, and you think it's for them, it's not for us. We can't do it, blah, 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 blah. But I think you're investing in your children and it's amazing. So we will be back here next week for our last roundup with the whole family. And I'm excited to talk to your dad as well and include him in on the fun. And thank you again, Haley, for taking time out of your crazy law school schedule. I know it starts in 10 days, but I'm sure you'll be, and I know you're clerking right now or something.
Yes, yeah, I'm doing an internship and a clerkship.
I love you. You're talk about goals, man. Your goals. And mom is goals, and dad too. So thank you for being an inspiration to myself and my family and to many families who are just like curious and now open-minded about it. So more power to you. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.